ahead and get the recording going and get our live transcript going. And I am going to get started. So I would like to welcome everyone to What Should I Speak On? Creating Your Signature Talk with Bobbie Carlton, Innovation from Innovation Women. She has spoken for us before. If you've been on her previous webinars, we welcome you back. And if not, you're in for a treat. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about SCORE. SCORE offers training via webinars and offering materials on our website, templates, all kinds of different bits on the websites if you'd like to check those out. But the most important thing that SCORE does is we offer free and confidential mentoring. Our mentors are volunteers who are donating their time to help those that want to start a small business or already are in business. You can meet with a mentor as often as you like. There is no limit to that, and it always is free, even as you follow up with your mentor. Our volunteers come from a variety of expertise and experiences to help all of our clients. The nice thing about SCORE is that it is a national organization. And if we can't answer or help you on a chapter level or a district level, we can reach out nationally to help facilitate your business and help it grow and help you get started. How do you get a mentor? Well, as I mentioned, we have our website. I will put those into the chat after I finish my introduction. Those are the chapter websites for our district. And you can go to there to find a mentor. You can also put information into the chat and I will make sure the correct chapter reaches out to you. Or you can email me, and my email address is on my little video clip. I will also put it into the chat, but it's the outreach@scoreboston.org, and I will make sure that the right chapter connects with you. If you already have a mentor, but you haven't met with them in a while, great time to follow up. Let them know how your business is growing. Bounce new ideas off of them. They're there for the duration of your business. We will be trying to utilize the Q&A tab whenever possible. It allows me to not lose track of the questions because sometimes the chat keeps scrolling and it's hard to find those questions in there. So that just makes my job a little bit easier if you don't mind. Okay, let me stop my share and I'm going to turn it over to our presenter. Thank you, Bobbie.
Okay, thank you so much, Teresa. And thank you all for joining me today. And I just have to put in my own personal plug for SCORE. Big double thumbs up for them. They are a fantastic organization and just so many resources and so many great things that they do for the startup and small business community. So like these webinars. So we're going to jump right in and I'm going to share my screen. And today we're talking about creating your signature talk. The goal is really to come up with a presentation that helps you be you and drives your business. So if you haven't met me before, I usually tell people that my day job is I run a PR and marketing firm. My night job is that for many years, I ran something called Innovation Nights, which is a local startup event in the Boston community. We helped launch 1,500 new products that got more than $4 billion in funding. During that time, I also started a third company, Innovation Women, which is an online speaker bureau, and one of the reasons that I'm here today. I've also done a TEDx event. I've hosted Innovation Nights, more than 100 events. I've spoken at the UN. I've been featured in the Boston Globe, USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, a number of other big publications. And a lot of the stuff that I do is around visibility, but it sometimes seems to just keep coming back to public speaking. And public speaking is just one of those things that helps you be seen for the expert that you are. So, if we are looking through the different aspects of public speaking, I've done a number of presentations for SCORE. We still have a couple of others coming up. So, if you're interested in this topic, you can definitely seek out those presentations. This is the presentation about signature talks. The driving business success through public speaking is something that I'm doing for SCORE nationally. And then we're going to be coming back here to Boston virtually, and getting paid to speak is the last presentation that I'm going to be doing in this round. It's usually one of my more popular presentations because everybody is like, I want to get paid to speak. So let's dig right in on what is a signature talk. And I want to start off by looking at where signature talks live. They live in that sweet spot that's the overlap of your expertise, your brand, and what the market really needs and what hot topics are. You want to make sure that your signature talk rests upon the foundation of what you know best. It supports your brand and it really answers a market need. If you are thinking about putting together a signature talk, you want one that incorporates all of your core messages, your brand's theme, but your specific point of view and your own story. It's also something that's repeatable. You can give that signature talk over and over again. Doesn't mean you're giving the exact same talk, but it does mean that you don't have to keep recreating entirely new presentations every time you're going to get up on stage. So the idea is to create a signature talk, a basic talk that you can keep returning to in terms of the topic, and you can tweak it for different audiences. You don't have to recreate it and create something new every single time. It's the go to tool in your toolbox, it's the thing you will use over and over again. Now, when we look at what a signature talk's purpose is, we're businesses, right? We run businesses, and a talk, a time that you have on stage when you're telling your story, the idea is to attract new businesses and customers and to retain existing clients. So you also want that talk to be something that you become known for. Oh, Bobbie, I'm going to get her to come in and give that talk that she gives about the business game changer or the career game changer. So people will begin to recognize that that is your signature talk. Also, your signature talk is something that you keep getting better and better at. Every time you give it, you should be learning new things, you should be trying new things, and you should be getting a better talk out of it. I've given my signature talk more than 100 times now, and I don't believe that any one of those times is like any other time. They are all very similar. They all have the same basic topic and same basic ideas, but there are changes that I make to each signature talk for the audience. A signature talk is also great in terms of your business, in terms of keeping you focused on the right things. So it's something that you're really honing and you're using it as a way to keep pounding the ground with that message. So part of the signature talk is also helping you become the one. We call it the one speaker, and the one speaker that everybody knows and everybody asks for when they want a presentation on a particular topic. So part of your goal should be to become that one speaker on the topic that everyone immediately thinks of. So, when you're creating your signature talk, one of the first questions that you should ask yourself is, what is the one thing that you want to be known for? And hopefully, it overlaps with the one thing that you can make uniquely your own. Please don't look around and grab a topic and say, that's my topic if there's a million other people giving that same talk. You want to be special. So we're going to go through 3 steps to creating your signature talk. I promise this is all very followable. All right, just 3 steps. We're going to start off with research. We're going to look at your branding and your branding as a speaker. Hopefully it supports your business brand. And we're also going to look at creating signature elements. And when you're creating signature elements, you can put them together and they become your overall talk. But before we get there, like almost everything I do, it's actually a marketing program. And when I talk to people about marketing and public speaking, I want you to always start any marketing program with your goals. I want you to know why you want to speak and why you want to get on stage right now. Is there some type of compelling, specific timeline that you are addressing? Is there something that's happening that's bigger than you out in the marketplace? Because if there is something that is very timely, you may want to create a signature talk for right now, and it might not be forever. But you want to think about what is happening in the rest of the world and look at what is possible for you in terms of connection to the big issues of the day. I also want you to think about what your ultimate business or personal goals are. Some people create signature talks that may not be focused on what their business is doing right now, but they may be creating a signature talk that addresses what they want to be doing in the future. So think about your ultimate goal. What do you want to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And let's see if it's something that you can help support through your public speaking. And what business or personal goal will your public speaking help you with? Are you trying to connect to customers? Are you trying to connect to partners or new business associates? Maybe you're out there doing public speaking because you want to be connecting with potential new hires for your business. So there's a lot of different reasons why people speak. And when you're putting together your signature talk, you want to keep those goals in mind. All right, diving right in, we're getting into the research. I want you to know what else is going on in the speaker world. Who is your competition? And oh, by the way, just because I'm calling them your competition here doesn't mean they are actually your competition. In fact, a lot of speakers want to know who the other speakers are in their space because they could potentially, at one point or another, be sharing a stage with that person. Who's gone to a conference where there have been panels, right? A panel is an opportunity to speak with others on stage. You're not necessarily putting together a presentation, but what you're doing is you're sitting on stage, you're talking about your topic, and perhaps you're sharing the stage with 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, right? Those people, if they are experts in your area, could potentially be the speakers that you look at and call them the competition. What other speakers do you resemble? Who's doing the work in your area, in your expertise? Now, I want you to think about how you differ from them. Who are the big names in your industry and what are their signature talks? You do not want to be kind of replowing the same earth. You want to make sure that you know what your differentiation is and how you are different from the other people. I'm going to give you an example. When I am talking about public speaking, I know there are tons of other speakers out there who this is their area of expertise. I mean, let's face it, everybody who does a lot of public speaking says, I'm an expert in public speaking. So, how do I set myself apart from all of those people? There's a huge group of people out there who talk about public speaking and the act of public speaking. When I'm pitching myself and when I'm putting together the talks for myself, what I'm doing is I am talking more about the business of public speaking. I'm talking about how to get on stage. I'm actually say in a lot of the abstracts that I put together for my talks, while other speakers talk about the act of public speaking, I focus on the business of public speaking and how to actually get on stage. It's a good differentiator and it helps me stand out from the crowd. All right, moving on. What are the speaking opportunities? This in this particular case, what I'm doing is I'm showing you a page on Innovation Women. Innovation Women actually has a place on it where we collect speaking opportunities. And we have a research team that looks for opportunities. Event managers can submit their own calls for speakers. And sometimes other people submit calls for speakers for conferences and events as well. At any given time, there can be 200, 300, 400, 600 different opportunities, and the opportunities kind of fall off the website as the deadlines pass. So that just gives you kind of a very quick view of how many opportunities are out there. If you've seen any of my other presentations, you'll know I talk about a concept I call the speaker's paradise. And the speaker's paradise talks about just the sheer volume of speaking opportunities. But you're going to go through the weeds here. You're going to find the opportunities that are specific for you and your topic. You're going to search call for speakers. You're going to search for different conferences and events, different industry associations, looking for your particular topic. And when you find it, that gives you an opportunity to see what we call the winners. Okay. The winners, when it comes to public speaking, are the people who have submitted a call for speakers, they've sent in their abstract, and they were chosen to speak. They won. They may have also pitched themselves as a speaker on the topic. So if you go to any conference or an event and you look at the program, it's really a list of the winners. So these are the people who are being successful with public speaking in your topic. In this particular case, I went to look at South by Southwest. We have the conference sessions, we have the conference speakers, and I'm looking for the people who speak on my particular topics. So this gives us a really good view of who the competition is and who is winning and why. Now, one thing that is often missing from people's presentations and their work around signature talks is the audience perspective. I want you to go out and ask prospective customers, what is the one question that they need answer? I also want you to ask the same question of your current customers. And by the way, this is an incredibly positive and good way to get connected with prospective customers or current customers. It's like finding out what their pain point is a great sales tactic, as well as it's an opportunity for you to figure out what the great topics are for your public speaking career. Find out who's actually going to events. One of the things that you can do is you can look at conferences and events, and often they will have demographic information. That's how they sell booths or sponsorship. You can find out who is actually the right people for you by looking at industry conferences and events and figure out who is attending them, because the event managers are looking for speakers who are going to be speaking to their audience. Now, go and look at the top publications in your industry. What's the cover story about? Look at the headlines. What are the journalists writing about at this moment in time? I want you to do things like looking at current articles and group conversations on LinkedIn and Facebook. Visit Google News, put in your topic, and see what comes up. Again, one of the things that you're looking for is that ability to serve an audience And if you can create a topic or a signature talk that solves a pain point for them or addresses a pain point for them, acknowledges their pain, you are a winner as a public speaker. You are much more likely to get on stage if you are able to help someone. Always think about your public speaking as a service that you are providing for that audience. One of the things that you can do when you're looking at what a hot topic is for your area is you can look at tools that are out in the marketplace. I always love looking at what is called the Gartner Hype Cycle. Gartner is an industry analyst group, and they created this tool several years ago. What they do is they look at a chart, they chart different technologies by expectations and over time. And they just have some really great ways of kind of thinking about it. So they'll plot different technologies along this entire area. And if you're thinking about this from the point of view of a speaker, well, do you really want to be doing a presentation that focuses on an area of technology that is in the trough of disillusionment? Probably not. You want to look at the area where people are excited about a technology or a topic. So you really want to think about these different areas and where the technology or the topic that you're speaking on falls along a hype cycle. Gartner only covers technology topics, but there is a sense of how you can actually put different technology or non-technology topics into a tool like this and figure out, when is it that people are very excited about your topic. Another tool that you can use is Google Trends. Google Trends allows you to put in a topic or a keyword and figure out if it is a hot topic or if that topic has peaked. It's just another tool for figuring out what the marketplace is interested in. And that enables you to kind of get past some of the gatekeepers or the event managers. If you are talking about, oh, I don't know, 18th century armor, maybe that topic is not exactly a hot topic right now. All right. So you want to think about what people are excited to hear about. And Google Trends also allows you to pick out specific keywords and compare them. So when you are putting together an abstract or a description of your talk, you can actually use the right keywords to get people excited versus keywords that maybe people don't use as much or don't recognize. So in this particular sense, one of the things I did is I searched the difference between the same word, basically. It's artificial intelligence and AI, to know that if I was putting together a presentation on artificial intelligence, I might make sure that I was using just the acronym AI more often. So it just helps you, not that everyone is automating the process of choosing speakers, but you just want to use the more popular terminology. All right. Moving on from that basic research, you've got a good idea of kind of what's happening in the market right now. Now you need to go back and think about yourself and your brand. And when we're thinking and talking about creating a signature talk, most people have multiple brands. You might have a brand that you are creating as a speaker that has nothing to do with your business. So think very carefully about the brand that you are creating at a personal level and at a business level. You always have to make sure that your brand is supported by an authentic foundation. I will tell you right now that, my authentic foundation is based on 37 years of working in PR and placing executives on stage. If I got up and suddenly decided that I was going to go out and speak about musical instruments. There's plenty of people that would say, why? What skills or credentials do you have? Maybe you like music, but you don't have any real expertise in this area. So you need to think about what authentic foundation you have or what authentic foundation you can create. Maybe you need a little bit of extra schooling. Maybe you need to take on some new projects. But if you are focused on creating a signature talk in an area, you need to make sure that it is supported by knowledge as well as your own passions and your interests. When we first started putting together profiles of speakers for Innovation Women, one of the things that I added to the profile that I asked speakers to fill in was their passion. And a lot of speakers are like, well, I'm giving you all this information about my background. Why do you want to know my passion? I said, well, that's a speaking opportunity. I actually get asked to speak quite a bit about my passion project. And Innovation Women really is a part of it. My passion is getting more women in particular on stage at conferences and events. So people are like, oh, we want you to come and speak on that topic. Well, it's not necessarily a topic, it's more of a passion project for me. And it really does fit into my core values and my beliefs. It's my mission. The next thing you want to think about is what achievements or accomplishments that you can address or pull into your speaker biography or point to when you're pulling together an abstract on your topic. Do you want to hear about a new business tactic or technique from someone who failed using it or someone who succeeded using it? I know what you're probably all thinking right now. It's like, oh, I want to know from the person who succeeded. I'd actually like to hear from both of them. So, accomplishments and achievements may not necessarily always be the thing that you think. I actually worked at one point for a book series, a girl brand that failed. It ran out of money in 2008. A lot of brands actually, and a lot of startups ran out of money at that time, but I'm able to point back to the experience and the knowledge of where I went wrong with that and what happened and what I would do going forward. So just think a little bit creatively about potential achievements and accomplishments that you can bring into your quest for the creation of your signature talk. What makes sense and what can you put into that foundation of knowledge and expertise? If you are thinking about your signature talk, think back. Is there a theme that you can point to? Something that floats through your career or your life? One of the things you might see every once in a while is a friend on Facebook asking the question of you and all the rest of their friends. If I wrote a book, what would that book be about? What they're doing is they are assessing how other people perceive them. This is actually a really common question that people ask when they're thinking about putting together a signature talk, when they're thinking about building a speaking career. They ask what other people, what would the book that I would write be about? So if you are thinking about creating a signature talk, ask the question. You might also find that people would be super interested in you buying a book, which is another great supporting foundational item for being a speaker. You also want to find out what people expect you to talk about. Not necessarily for saying that's the way you must go, but you may want to have that knowledge and know what the expectations are of your potential audiences, of your friends, so that if they expect you to do something different, you're able to pivot that and explain to them, no, this is why this is a better opportunity. You can also ask people, what is the one piece of advice you would expect me to give? And also think about if someone asked you for information about your industry, about your topic, If you had to break it all down and focus on one thing, what is the one piece of advice or the one tip that you would give other people entering this area? As you're thinking about all of this different information, it's all going to be kind of swirling into this great big mass of keywords and topics and such. But you have to kind of pull it all together and think about it in a way that helps people understand what you're talking about and recall it. So there's some great branding devices out there. Alliteration. Alliteration, all these different kinds of figures of speech or parts of speech. If you remember back to English class in 10th grade, alliteration is when things are starting with the same letter. Rhyming schemes is another great branding device. It helps people remember what you're talking about. Picturesque language. And also, I want you to kind of zero in on your story and telling your own story. I've heard so many speakers tell parables or share someone else's story. I want you to think about what is your own story, a story that people will not hear anywhere else but from you. Make sure it's a story that you own. And these are all excellent devices for creating a brand for yourself and your topic. I also want to make sure that you are doing something I call being more than one Google search deep. If you are getting up on stage and you are sharing information with an audience, you're telling them a story, will they feel that they have gotten something that they couldn't get anywhere else? If you share information that anybody and their brother could find by going online and putting in the topic and whoop, there's the top answer, people in the audience are not going to feel like they got something extra out of it. People go to see speakers, they show up for webinars, they go to events because they really want something that's going to wow them, that is going to turn their heads. Google is also helpful in many other ways as well. It will help you with your branding. I want you to think about your signature talk, your topic, and your own personal brand. How would somebody go to a search engine like Google and find you? And I'm going to add a little extra degree of difficulty here. How would they find you if they don't know your name? What identifying characteristics about you, your topic, and your signature talk will make such an impression on them that they will instantly recall who you are? Maybe not necessarily your name, but they'll know your identity. For me, a lot of times people will search on the founder of Innovation Nights, the founder of Innovation Women. Those are part of my identity without being my name. Can you create a phrase or a brand that is Googleable when it's not paired with your name? Are you the sales networking queen? Are you um, the person who founded a specific company? A brand isn't just that topic, and a topic is not enough to be a brand. There are millions of keywords out there. People are searching on topics all the time, but they need to have enough impression made on them, and you need to have enough of a unique identity for them to find you. And the way that you get to that level of recognition and being findable without your name involved is by being consistent. Now we're back to the whole repeatable part of a signature talk. You have to keep using the same topic, the same basic signature talk to be that well known. You're going to have to talk to a lot of audiences and a lot of people to get to that level of recognition. But that all goes back to becoming the one speaker that people think about when they get associating with a topic. All right. Third step, we are now getting into that actual development of your signature talk. And I do see a couple of questions popping up. I think we're actually going to get to some of these for you. All right. Your basic talk, most people's basic talk, usually starts with a problem. And by the way, this isn't necessarily the talk structure, but how you are creating the ideas and the structure around your talk itself. Some people start talks by diving into the middle of a talk. They start you on a cliffhanger. But when you're thinking about creating the talk, you probably want to start with, what is the problem that I am solving? What is the setup? What is the pain? Now, think about the spark that ignites when you were able to solve that problem. What helped you get the idea on how to solve that problem? How did you figure it out? You also want to think about how you raise the stakes, how you show people how important it is to have this problem solved. Then you want to get to how the problem itself is solved and what happens when it's solved, the climax, and then you want to get into a conclusion. These are basic structures for almost any type of storytelling or any type of talk. You also want to think again about something that is uniquely yours. I call it the special sauce. And the secret sauce, the special sauce, this is all gets back to a bit of your brand. Again, we're going to use some of those figures of speech, rhyming, metaphors, analogy, numbering, the 5 steps, or in this case, what we've been talking today, the 3 steps of creating your signature talk. So we've got a number in there. We're grouping things together, or we give them a name. You want to make sure that you are quotable, right? During your signature talk, you want to give people phrases that they remember. So you want to make sure what you say to them is short and concise. You want to use consistent messaging. You're going to say the same things over and over and over again. Now, not in the same speech, of course, but you're going to say them a lot when you are giving your signature talk. Remember how many times I've given my signature talk? And you want to create something that is a sound bite. When I talk about certain things, I have some phrases that I use over and over again when I'm talking about public speaking. For example, I created a name for something that I put my arms around of, which is all of the opportunities that are out there for public speaking. I call it the speaker's paradise. Many, many opportunities for speakers to get on stage. Another thing that I've done in the past is I have a concept, 1, 2, 3 networking. 1, 2, 3 networking means recognizing that when you go to a networking event, the people who are standing by themselves, the ones, are more than happy if you come over and introduce yourself. Together, you make 2 people standing together. The people that are by themselves, they're not at a networking event to stand by themselves. Believe me, they want to be part of it too. And then if you stand openly and you have a great conversation with your second person, you want to attract a third person to the conversation. And all of a sudden, you are networking. Crowd promoting. I actually coined a term. And again, these are all things that are unique. What can you create that is unique? Can you create a term? Crowd promoting means using people's social networks to help support a community as that community needs more promotion. In my case, it's startups. So I'm creating a term. Male, pale, and stale. That's what a lot of industry conferences speaking slates are. Manels, an all male panel. I usually talk about the same 4 old white guys. Not that I have anything against old white guys. I am married to one. But male, pale, and stale. I'm using a rhyming structure there. It's short, it's concise, and it's something that fits into my overall signature talk. It's quotable. It helps people remember it. So these are the types of things that you want to work into your signature talk. Where can you be memorable? Then you're going to come up with the pitch or the abstract. And while a lot of people will include information about why they are uniquely the best person to give this talk in their biography, I would challenge you to be able to incorporate that information into your description of your signature talk. Why are you the best or maybe the only person who can address this topic? What are your accomplishments? What credibility points can you point to? Now, in that pitch or that abstract, I also want you to think about what you are offering that audience. How are you in service to that audience? How are you solving their pain? And what unique concepts do you bring to the table? When you are doing these presentations, I want you to think about sprinkling some breadcrumbs to help guide people to you. I want you to think about not getting up there and delivering a sales pitch. Public speaking shouldn't be a sales pitch. That's a sales pitch. Very different thing. I want you to avoid the direct pitch when you are thinking about doing public speaking. But it doesn't mean you can't drop some hints, right? You can use examples or you can tell stories to illustrate your points, and you can bring people along for the ride. So when you are giving your presentation, finally, you've developed your signature talk, you've applied to speak, you have pitched, then you need to actually give the talk. And to help drive business, to help make those connections, you want to sprinkle the breadcrumbs. And then repeat. Remember what I was talking about earlier? Signature talks should be repeatable. And you should keep making that signature talk better and better every single time you give it. Thank you so much. All right. I know we've already got questions that have been popping up. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can dive into some of those questions.
Okay. I'm wondering what the process and financial implications are for coining a word or a 2 to 3 word phrase. How easy or difficult? Who do we need to involve? And does it cost well into the 5 figures to get coined internationally?
Gotcha. So it sounds like you're talking about trademark issues or copywriting. All right. So, and those are 2 very different things. And I am not a lawyer, but I have trademarked some things. You don't necessarily have to be trademarking a concept or a phrase to own it. For example, crowd promoting. I have not trademarked that. I have, if I create something and I write it, I kind of own the copyright the moment that it's created and it is out there for other people to see. The minute you create something, it is yours basically, unless somebody else has created it before you. So you want to do the Google work, you want to search on things, use Google, use Bing, use whatever search engine that you can to go and look and see if somebody else there is using it. Then you need to start protecting it, and you need to start protecting it by using it and identifying it as your concept. So when you are doing this type of work, sometimes you want to be going out and grabbing some domain names. I own crowdpromoting.com, for example. All right. I don't have much on it, but it's mine. I own the URL. You may want to start using it as social networks. So grabbing the domains for those things there and grabbing the usernames. When you start giving presentations, like capitalize these things, mark them up, point them out as your concept. And if you searched on the speaker's paradise, you're probably going to end up coming up with me because I have actually created specific talks where I'm using that phrase in the title. So those talks and those titles keep being associated with me. It does take a bit of work to do that. So, there is stuff and work that you have to do to actually snag those concepts and keep them for your very own. And you have to make sure that if other people are using him, after you coined it, after you said that's my concept, communicate with those people like, hey, that's my concept. I know you use, you used it and it's mine, and maybe you saw me using it. I have seen some speakers who are wholesale copying what others do, but I've also seen some speakers who will give credit to the person that coined a term or created a concept. I hope that
Um,
helps.
do you recommend learning some acting skills to be comfortable on stage?
Um, I usually recommend taking improv classes. No matter what you do, practice, 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 practice. I will say right off, when I first started Mass Innovation Nights in 2009, I was a really horribly uncomfortable speaker. I sweated through my clothes that first night. And over the years, a lot of practice. Mass Innovation Nights was a monthly event. So I got a lot more practice. I got a lot more comfortable with it. But improv classes are awesome. They make you feel more comfortable on stage, and they're a heck of a lot of fun too. So that's one of the recommendations. I think acting lessons, if you're going to really get deep into this, definitely couldn't hurt. And there's probably some overlap in those two areas.
Generally speaking, are video logs with signature talk viable to promote your business to scale?
I say so. But there's a big but here. You have to make sure that you are talking to your audience of potential customers, not necessarily talking to an audience with your competitors. What I mean by that is I am a longtime public relations practitioner. And most people would say, oh, Bobbie, you should go and speak at the PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America. Well, the Public Relations Society of America is an awesome organization filled with my potential competitors. I would be much better served because I am servicing and looking for customers in the startup community and the small business community by looking for speaking opportunities where those people hang out. Very rarely do I find a startup entrepreneur or CEO at the PRSA. That said, if the work that you are doing for public speaking gets you a broad amount of coverage, maybe the PRSA specific audience isn't great for me, but I'm doing a presentation for them. It's going up on YouTube. Maybe they're promoting it on social media, and potential customers are seeing me that way. You're doing all of the work that marketers do. You're looking for the size of the community, you're looking for the reach, and you're looking for frequency. How often can you get in front of the same viewership? How often can you get in front of prospective customers? They're not going to buy your stuff the first time they see you, or at least they probably aren't. So you're going to have to be seen over and over and over again. And you're also going to look at all of the different ways you can get in front of that person. Maybe you speak and they follow you on social media. I don't know if you noticed, but all of my slides have my Twitter and Instagram handle for Innovation Women on them. I say something particularly brilliant, people follow me perhaps for more brilliance later on, or maybe they say something and they tag me. So those are the types of things that you're going to do to connect with prospective customers while you're speaking from the stage. A lot of people also use different devices when they are up on stage, such as QR codes or what we call lead magnets. And lead magnets are a promise. sign up for the Innovation Women newsletter, and you'll get a weekly newsletter, which every week gives you 5 free speaking opportunities that you can investigate for your very own. That would be an example of a lead magnet. It's also true, by the way. So, all right. Hopefully that helps.
How do you see the market in the US for public speakers providing their talks in different languages?
Ooh, if you have the ability to do that, big thumbs up. I am a inveterate English speaker. Took years of French, can't speak in another language, but I would absolutely put that into your information. If you are fluent and you can speak in more than one language, that's awesome.
Um, who do you recommend for voice lessons? I'm a soft talker.
Oh, I don't have anyone off the top of my head, although I do know that there are a couple of speakers on the Innovation Women platform that you can search for. If you want to put your information or send me your information, I can connect you with some of those. And I think everybody needs to understand, their own speaking needs. I have all of these great tools. I'm doing these speaking engagements remotely. I have nice microphone and headphones and all of this stuff, and that helps me. And I don't have to be particularly loud. If you are a very soft talker, you may want to make sure that you're not doing speaking engagements in a place that requires you to project a lot. One of the notes that I will also say is a lot of smaller speaking engagements, they don't have the money or the facilities for amplification if you're doing live presentations. If they do have amplification and you are a loud speaker, please don't say, no, 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 I can be heard. I'm not going to use the mic. If there is a mic, use it. Number one reason, they could be recording this and could be taking a direct feed off the soundboard. They need you to use the mic. Number two, your voice will eventually get softer as you speak, especially if you're speaking for any given time. And so over time, you'll drift down a little bit, especially if you're exerting yourself with your public speaking, if you're speaking in person. So please use the mic if one is offered. That's my plea.
Okay. I didn't understand how exactly we can see if where in the Gartner hype cycle the interest is in the topic, if it's not a hot topic that was noticeable curve line
Yep.
in Google Trends or Google keywords.
Absolutely. So Gartner's hype cycle is specific to technology topics. And Gartner analysts, there's like a whole bunch of them all over the world, follow individual topics. And every year, I kind of envision this wrestling match, at the Gartner headquarters. No, 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 my topic is more important than your topic. But what they do is they plot out on that cycle, on that curve, where different technologies are in terms of overall hype. So I think a lot of times, you see these things happen over time. You can see anything pretty much on Google Trends. You can input any word, but the Gartner hype cycle itself is specific to technology. All right, getting to the question. My topic isn't a technology to look at on the Gartner hype cycle. How do I use that idea? I think one of the things that you can do is you can see how long that topic has been around, how popular it is, and you can use Google Trends for that. How often are people searching on it? But searching on something doesn't necessarily tell you if it's positive or negative. You have to do what we call sentiment analysis. And I will actually do sentiment analysis on topics over time to see what's coming up in the news right now. Okay. NFTs. NFTs, lot of hype around NFTs, lot of hype around cryptocurrency, right? And so you want to start looking for negative keywords and positive keywords. There's a point in the cycle where the negative keywords are going to start outweighing the positive keywords. And so if you can analyze the search numbers and what is being written about any particular topic, you can actually tell where you are really in that hype cycle. And I really just try to avoid the trough of disillusionment when people start saying, you know what, that is not a great thing to be doing right now. When people are doing a lot of skepticism about a topic. I mean, yes, there's healthy skepticism on topics kind of anywhere, but I think there's a point where people are like, that is not working. We're moving away from it. And you can also look at conferences and events and their programs. There's a lot of research that you need to do with these topics to make sure that you are on the cutting edge, but not the bleeding edge.
I have a follow-up to the trademark question.
Mhm.
I was thinking that coining a word or term is one or a couple steps above a trademark federally registered. Thought that there was some complexity, which is why.
I think usage is really where it comes down to it. You know, if you don't want to trademark something, and trademarks can be expensive. By the way, you can do it yourself. You do want to do the research to look into whether something is already trademarked or if it is being used. So make sure that it's not a phrase that somebody else is using or has been using for a long time. So you want to make sure that it's yours and uniquely yours. And again, it does come down to usage. So if you can own the term, you know, if you can keep standing on stages, if you can keep writing about it, if you can create an article that offers people the definition of that term that you've coined, then you become really the owner of it, whether you've trademarked it or not. And if somebody else goes to trademark it, there's a lawyer out there someplace doing the search work that says you're trying to trademark a term that this person coined, that this person defined, that this person is using every time. They're not going to go there. That help? I hope.
Okay, I do have somebody that submitted an anonymous comment, and it looks like it's a
Okay.
tag onto something else. And so I just want to say, if you submit something anonymously, I can't tell which questions go together. So I'm gonna have to dismiss that one. And I have another person asking if their topic is a good topic or a bad topic. I'm not sure. Do you want me to read that out or?
I'm reading it, but yeah,
Okay.
why don't you read it while I'm thinking about it?
Okay. If we were a health practitioner that has a lot written up on all things related to water and proper hydration, a fairly general topic anyone can Google, and have also seen a number of others speak on it, but think we can step up the level of breadth and depth offered on the topic to audiences with a signature talk on water. Would you say this is a good idea or a bad idea?
I like the idea. If you can put a stamp on something that a lot of people talk about it, that a lot of people talk about, if you can create something where you have a unique perspective, where you create an idea, think about your speaking as a way to spread that idea. You're talking about water and hydration here. So water, good. Hydration, excellent. All right. Is there something specific? You know, I know a lot of times different weight loss programs and stuff like that have all kinds of stuff around water and hydration and in terms of weight loss, and flavoring water is good. Like pretend they never existed and you are out there saying, you know, flavoring your water is great. And, you know, it helps you drink more water and be more hydrated. What kind of flavor, you know, do you have research that says cherry flavor is better than strawberry flavor? And like dig down into some of the details of it. Or could it be part of your company brand? You know, the Smith brand concept of water hydration, or hydrate. That was really redundant, wasn't it? The Smith brand of hydration. I know I've seen a lot of different kind of water bottles that work around these concepts, but I think you're going to have to do a little bit of digging and focusing because, oh my God, it's water. It's, planet wide. How are you going to focus your talk? So sometimes very focused talks are more successful than very broad talks.
We've hit 1 o'clock. Did you want to wrap it up or would you
I can answer
want to?
maybe one more question if people
Okay.
want that.
Okay. Could you mention some of the tools and go-to speakers used to build out presentations other than PowerPoint, Keynote, Canva? I see some people offering a couple dozen presentations in a year, and I wonder how they put so many together. Any other tools or pro tips to help us become a prolific speaker with multiple
Yeah.
signatures and that? Yeah.
I
Okay.
will I will tell you that I think a lot of people that do many, many, many topics, um, eh, they run out of steam after a while. And I think the smart speakers get very focused very quickly. I do a kind of continuum of topics. Obviously a lot of them are focused around public speaking, around women's issues, around marketing. I mean, that's incredibly broad, but also they are topics and presentations that I've given over an almost 40-year career. So I'm pulling from concepts and I'm pulling threads that I've spoken on before. These days, I very rarely put up a completely new presentation. For example, the series that I have been doing here are actually taken from a series that I do for Innovation Women members. We have what we call knowledge sessions, and the knowledge sessions are very short, focused presentations and conversations that I do around very specific topics. But they're all part of the big signature talk. So putting together a 4-part webinar or something like that covers all this stuff, and then I can break it down into many small pieces. Again, going back to it's better if you have a focus versus trying to hit all of the points. One of the things I tell a lot of speakers is you are better off if you are able to give people a very focused conversation versus trying to cover all of the bases. Because if you're covering all the bases, you're not leaving room for other people to comment. You're not allowing them to engage in a conversation. And just pushing out information doesn't get you the business connections. It doesn't get you the engagement that you want from this thing that you're doing. I wish it was public conversations versus public speaking. And that is all I'm going to say on the subject today. I hope you will join me the next time, though.
Yes. Thanks, Bobbie. Fantastic presentation. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time.
It is a Rhodes mic. Somebody just asked. Rode, Rode. Bye, gang.
Bye.